everyone. Hey everyone, welcome back. Hello, back with another video. So here we are again on another hashtag. And the way that this hashtag actually got started was Marina and I were talking about Easter, and Marina started to bring up about how Yeshua doesn't really care for the name Jesus. And so that's kind of the way that this all got started. For people that don't know us yet, or know the nickname that we use, just because it's easier, we use QA, which means Quantum Alchemy Hypnosis, QA, Quantum Alchemy hashtag. So as I say QA, that's what you'll know what I'm talking about. So QA there's no hierarchy in QA. QA is all about high frequency. Qua is about the higher self. Qua is about cellular memory. Qua is about DNA activation. But for the sake of this particular video, Qua is for sure about remembering, which is a very big topic for us. And, you know, if anything, Qua is mostly about love consciousness. And all of this really stems into Yeshua. And so I just think that's an important thing to bring up. As far as me, I've never really practiced any type of religion. I am always doing a lot of self-growth and self-healing on myself. And one of the things that I did discovered like a while when I was in my 30s was a meditation school that really changed my life. And one of the things that helped me so much, and to this day I still do this every day in my meditation, is I look at my chakras. And I one day was talking to Narayan, who is sort of an entity that kind of umbrellas Qua. And Narayan said something to me that I thought was really powerful and kind of blew my mind. He was saying that the higher self, I always thought the higher self was in the 7th chakra, which is the information, the remembering, where all of more of the knowingness is in the 7th. So I just automatically assumed that the higher self was in the 7th, and it showed me that it actually is in the heart chakra, which really, actually, to be honest, blew my mind. I was like, God, that actually does make a lot of sense. Like how you say, follow your heart. It seems like when you drop into your heart, you get more of the truer answers. And so it really makes sense to me that where Yeshua is at is here in the 4th, in the higher self, in this heart area right here. And so I'm just encouraging you, when we are going to go through this journey with Marina and Yeshua, to, if you could, just drop yourself here. And I just want you to know that nothing's going away. Jesus isn't going away. All of, your memories that you have, all of everything that you are is important to you, that this Jesus has for you. We're not taking anything away from you. We're just adding. We're adding to the wonderfulness that you already have up here of Jesus. And so let's just open our hearts up and let Marina and Yeshua speak. And let's just experience this journey with them. So before I hand this over to Marina and Yeshua, I wanted to also just point out that one of the things that happens a lot to Alexa, Marina, and I is we can't say any of these things without experiencing all of them. That's kind of like something that we learned very early on that has to happen. We have to walk the talk, so to speak. And we've really been tested throughout this whole experience, and especially Marina with Yeshua showing us things. And one of the things that we want to talk about, that Marina will talk about, is we had an experience with uh, something that I'll leave her up to telling you about, by the names of Duffy and Hackey. And Duffy and Hackey really opened us up a lot, and it was a good message from Yeshua, and we're going to learn a lot from them. I could feel it today. So let's just open ourselves up and just hear what has to be said. So here we are, and Marina and Alexa, let's hear what they say right now.
Yes, whatever I'm personally, I'm going to say here is not based on religion, and it's not based on the Bible, it's not based on any movie, it's based on what I see, what he tells me when I'm channeling him. I experience everything everything he did experience, if we talk in a linear time, right? So but I feel it at the moment. So I have been recollecting all these emotions, feelings for a while. So again, what I'm going to say is based on what he says to me, what he shows me, all the feelings he goes through, he went through, and is going right now, everything like that. So he wants people to feel his energy fully, to remember the pure essence of what unfolded. No, and I'm talking specifically about his life, the purpose of his life. Everything was distorted. For example, um, the crucifixion. Yeah, Easter is coming, right? So we have to talk about that. So the crucifixion was never about sacrifice, about giving something up or saying sorry for the others in the way like they have framed it. Yeshua was not a lamb taken to be killed to make a God story stop being angry. You know how it is. So he chose to experience that moment fully as part of a larger plan, an energetic catalyst. That's what happened. It was an energetic catalyst that was designed to break the dense greed of control that had been placed over humanity, because there is so much control, and there was so much control, and we're still in the same thing. And he wanted to break that, and he was misunderstood. His physical death was never the point. It was the transmutation of fear into love, the activation of higher consciousness, and the anchoring of a new frequency on earth. Everything changed after his crucifixion, and people don't see it. The suffering was not the key; it was the overcoming of it. Yeshua came to show that death is an illusion, and we keep talking about this actually in our videos. That life is eternal. Life is eternal. We don't die. So, and he wanted to show that love can never be extinguished. He didn't die. His love didn't die. But humans, here we are, they needed something to hold on, right? So they could not comprehend the concept of ascension without pain. That's and a lot of religions go through that, okay, that they put that in your head. So they kept the story of the cross, because it showed the pain they felt inside. They needed something sad to help explain why they felt stuck. We need an excuse to feel that pain. So Yeshua didn't come to be worshipped or to be seen as someone who had to suffer for others. He came to remind them of their own divinity, to show them that they have the power to transcend. But they weren't ready to see that. They were still caught in that old paradigm, in that old story, in that old belief, where sacrifice was necessary for transformation. They could not yet grasp that he was offering actually a pathway to liberation, not through suffering, but through awakening. And that's why we have videos about that. We explain about the awakening and the remembering and difference. So if you want to take a look at that, but he wanted people to awaken, to realize what the truth of themselves are. His mission was to help people remember the light and love inside them, and encoded with his life and his teachings. He encoded all that in he was showing them. Okay, the crucifixion was the moment where the energetic field of the earth, okay, shifted, and it wasn't about pain or punishment, but about shutting, like exploding this, breaking this illusion of separation that we still have it. Let's say in the times of Lemuria, that illusion didn't exist. It started with Atlantis, but that illusion didn't exist at that time because it is an illusion, and we forget when we are born. We forget about it because we want to experience that like from scratch, and when we want to rediscover it from another point of view. So coming back to Yeshua stayed in that body. He endured, right? Not because he had to, but because humanity needed a mirror. That moment wasn't the end. The resurrection was the true key. It was about transcending death, about showing the path beyond limitation. Because we are the masters of limitation, right? And actually, Bashar, if you guys know Bashar, he says that too. So they misunderstood because they were still bound by that old system of belief. They needed a savior. What he was showing them that they could save themselves. Oh my God. The people still say, oh, they are coming to save us. And it's not about being saved by someone else. You are the one that has to do that for yourself. And he wanted to show that. So what he was doing, he was mirroring people so they can understand. They had to like lower his energy to match them so they can. So he needed to talk their language. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. So and I felt and I feel and I see the weight of how they misinterpreted everything. But it is time to see the truth, people. It's time. They don't need to celebrate his death. And I'm talking about Easter. They need to celebrate life, rebirth, in the remembrance, that awakening, the remembrance of our own power. We need to remember our own power and celebrate that life, rebirth. So during Yeshua's time, he had many challenges. For example, when he was young, and you guys know this, he was surrounded by people, but he was feeling different. He was feeling lonely. He knew since he was a little boy that he wasn't like the others. He could see beyond the veil. Even as he taught, he was a teacher, right? So he taught, he was healing, and he inspired other people. But very few really saw him. Very few people really saw that what he was. They were witnesses, all that stuff, but people didn't. Not all of them. Most people didn't see him. They followed the miracles. That's what people did. Yes, they followed the miracles. They heard the words, right? But they could not just feel the depth of what he carried.
They couldn't understand.
Exactly, because they couldn't. They couldn't see, they couldn't understand. A lot of them didn't want to, because admitting that you have the power, you don't have responsibility anymore, right? Now, it's better to say, oh, someone else would save me, so I don't have that responsibility. I don't have to do that work. Someone else will have to do it. So they didn't want to see that they have that power. They fear what they couldn't understand. And a great example in our life is that we were doing a hypnosis session.
Oh, you froze.
And
You
the
froze.
light show up. You could see it in the video. The light really show up in my back, and Pilar was looking, and she said, "Oh, you become white," and I didn't understand what she said. And then it's like, "Oh, we have to look at the recording," and it's there, and it shows everything. The light is so pure, and what it showed up so strong at the moments that I was saying certain things where we were helping heal this person. Okay, so through hypnosis. And the light showed up. So I had it all in video. The thing is that I showed those parts of the video to different people, and those people that don't understand, like in the time of Yeshua. You know what they say? Oh no, you need protection. Oh my God, that's the devil. How? The light, not the darkness. The light. So they can understand no matter what, like people. That was a better example I don't have of that. Maybe it was recent. Okay, is that they don't understand and they prefer to fear. Okay, they don't understand because they don't want to. They block themselves. Come on, I'm showing you the light, and the things that I'm saying in the video is about love, and the light shows up. Oh no, I have to protect myself. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the thing that he went through, right? And Yeshua came to awaken love, not religion, not fear, but those in power want to control, not awakening. Mm-hmm. I had to watch how his message was twisted, reframed, and used to build institutions he never asked for. Yeshua spoke of freedom, but they built cages around his name. And that's another thing why he doesn't like the name of Jesus, because they twisted everything with his name, and they used the name Jesus to do that. It wasn't him. It was not him. So he stood up to systems like politics, religion, and society, and in return, they fought back, not just with weapons, but with lies, betrayal, and trying to stop him from speaking out. So he had a lot of responsibilities. Yeshua carried the knowing that his life was not his own. Because if you think about it, well, I feel it, and I felt it, and he showed me. But if you really think about it, it wasn't his own. Every step that he took was guided by a higher mission, but it was heavy. He felt the burden of being misunderstood, of carrying through truth that the world was not ready to hear. And they were not ready to hear, and even now, but I think we are getting better. We are really getting better on that. So he had that responsibility, and it was not easy for him. Those closest to him, those he trusted, they could not fully hold what he was. But the pain of that betrayal, it cut deeply. He was human. He was a man. Okay, he felt those things, So trust was broken, right? But those who couldn't understand who he really was. Oh, by the way, speaking of trust and betrayal, actually, Judas. This is important. Judas never betrayed him. He was the one he trusted the most. He trusts the most at that moment. Yeshua asked him to turn him over because he knew Judas' heart. He was the only strong enough to do what needed to be done. He could not ask the others. That was really strong. That was a really strong moment. Judah was feeling a lot of conflict by the request, but he was also full of love for Yeshua. So Judas didn't betray him. He fulfilled the most difficult task of all. Imagine you being in that place, playing that role. It was the most difficult. Yeshua told him what had to happen. Yeshua told him what he had to play his part, so that the prophecy will be fulfilled. Not to the distorted version that they tell you now that it was betrayed. Oh no, practically right now they crucify Judas right there. Okay, but it was like an activation that will shift the collective consciousness. So that's why Yeshua did that. That asked Judas. Judas was the most trustful person, the strongest person in his group for that role, for that job. He didn't want to do it. Judas didn't want to do it. His heart was broken when he did it, but he trusted Yeshua and his reason. He trusted the divine plan. So Judas carried that burden alone. Even after Yeshua had left the body, Judah was left behind with a weight of misunderstanding. He was so judged. Imagine that, that heaviness in his heart. So the world attacked him because they didn't know the truth. They took on that pain because he took on that pain because he loved Yeshua and because he loved humanity. His heart was too heavy. He felt the weight of being misunderstood. The world needed a villain to fit their story of sacrifice. So that's why Yeshua did it that way. The world needed a villain. That was the only way that the people could understand, speaking their own language. You know what I mean? So they made Judas that villain, but he was never the villain. He was the most loyal of all. It's time people know the truth. It's time to honor Judas for his courage. Judas was not the villain, but someone who played a key role in a bigger picture, potentially helping things unfold as they needed to. So let's set him free from the burden of misunderstanding. Humanity is ready to see with new eyes. So you need to know the truth. Okay, you need to know the truth. There was a lot of doubt and questioning that Yeshua felt. Yes, he questioned. He questioned at times, not the divine plan, but himself. Like, what was I ready? Was I doing enough? That kind of stuff. Like you can feel too, through your life, you can feel too that kind of stuff that you are not even sure if you should be doing something or not. Well, he felt it because of the people's reaction. He felt the struggle of his human side against the bigger purpose he was meant to live. So he questioned if his path was unfolding as it should, if he was doing enough to fulfill the mission he had been entrusted with. So he faced the pain of human emotion fully. And that's what he makes me feel, that stuff. Like, for example, grief, when his people pass, to witness their suffering, to feel the pain of separation, even though he knew that no separation truly exists. I have this feeling too, losing those who have transitioned beyond this plane, feeling their absence, like the physical absence, even when I sense their presence, when I see them, and I talk to them, I feel too. I do feel it. I know what he went through. I think every person that can sense like I do, okay, they can feel it, but we do understand that it's not death, but we still feel it. It's hard. As human, it's hard. So he felt the pain when friends walk away, wanted to come back home. He wanted to come back home. Every time he remembered home, I'm talking about heaven up there. He wanted to come back. And there were nights that he cried, but not for himself, but for a world that had forgotten its own light.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew what was coming. He felt it approaching, the cross, the cruelty, the misunderstanding, and still he walked forward. Not because he desired suffering, but because he trusted the light will win in the end. To be hated and yet respond with love, that was the greatest challenge, but also the greatest liberation. That kind of stuff really free you, free you. You feel that freedom through that love. When people judge you, hate you, and all that stuff, you still feel love. That's really a challenge for us right now, and it was for him too.
Mm-hmm.
People look at him with like awe, oh my God, yes, he is the savior, he is everything, but also with fear and skepticism. They call him many things. They call him healer, teacher, but also a threat, a blasphemy. They feel what they did not understand. That's it. That's once again. So how many times have we been called many things in our life? Misunderstood by those whose minds are and hearts are not ready to see. Many times. So we do go through the stuff that he went through. We do it. So he needed to experience himself as a human to reflect us, with the things that we go through. So, but also talking about the judgment and all that, how people reacted with him and all the fear and all that stuff. He understood deeply that they were not truly judging him. They were judging what they could not yet see with themselves. That's what they were judging. So Yeshua didn't feel like it was towards him. He was just that reflection. Because the Christ light, when it shines, illuminates both love and fear. So people are not afraid of you. They are afraid what you awaken in them. The reflection you offer shows them the places they still hide from their own truth. That's what happens. Bila, you have experienced this too.
Yeah.
So Yeshua did not resist judgment. He did not argue or try to convince. He simply remained. He allowed the truth of his presence to speak louder than their fear. And he loved them. Even as they tried to tear him down, he still loved them. Not because he wanted to be seen as good, but because he knew they were still asleep. Because that's what we are, people. We are asleep. We have to wake up, lift the veil. So he understood all that. So he had compassion. He couldn't judge those people that were judging him. No, he understood from that point of view. He really understood, but it was still hard. So judgment is the shadow of misunderstanding. And the only remedy for misunderstanding is light. And once again, I come to the light. And if you do the light exercise, you bring the light to you get to a higher frequency, a higher state, a higher realm. You can see this, and the judgment will disappear, because you understand. When you understand, there's nothing to judge. So when judgment comes, do not defend yourself. Anchor deeper, return to your heart, and let your silence be your answer. Yeah, it's the silence. No silence of weakness, but silence of knowing. On the cross, I don't know if you know these pillars, but on the cross, he said, forgive them. It's something like this. I don't know exactly words, right? But he says, forgive them because they don't know what they do. That's what he said when he was on the cross. Forgive them because they don't know what they do. And he meant it, and he still does. He still feels that, every time he sees horror in this world. He says that God, Lord, forgive them, because they really don't know what they are doing. They don't know. They are so blinded. So let them see you, let them feel you. And when they judge, bless them. Bless them. For their fear is not only proof of how bright you shine. That's what we were talking about this. I think it was last night, Pilar, that we people can shine so much that other ones feel threatened by that light, and they try to dim you down so they can shine brighter, but they don't try to shine brighter. They stay here in this low light energy. They don't try to shine lighter. They try to dim you down so their little light is noticeable. That's what happens. People stay soft, stay true. That is the way. Yeshua, he really missed home. He wanted to come back home. He really had that feeling of missing, like how do you say when home, you're not home?
Homesick?
Homesick. Yeah, that's how he felt. Okay, there were moments when Yeshua wanted to leave, to return to the realms where love flows without distortion. Imagine, why has to be here when he could be there, right? Where he could just simply be. He wanted to come back to that, but people see this.
I wanted to. Did Joshua? Was he always in his higher self? Like, did he have an ego like we do, or like
we as humans need ego, because if we are not humans,
right? Yeah.
If we're not humans, we don't have ego.
Right.
Ego help us to survive. And he had the ego, but he didn't have the bad ego. That's the difference.
Okay.
But he did doubt it, like a couple times. So who was the one talking there? His ego. But he was able to see it right away. So he didn't let his bad tiny, because he didn't really have a bad ego, but that ego, he didn't let that ego to take over. So obviously he felt those things. He needed to feel himself, human emotions. So that's why he was human, but he understood better. That is the difference. So, and when I was saying about when he wanted to leave, because he had that feeling that he wanted to leave. He wanted to come back to a place where he wouldn't be judged, and he will be himself freely, right? And this is something that people see during our hypnosis, and not just our hypnosis, and any hypnosis sessions, when they go to other rooms, that they feel so much love, and many people feel like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And some people, they even feel like depressed, that they don't want to be here. They want to come back over there, because that is happiness, not here. And they want that. But that's not the point. Alexa, do you remember when you were in Orlando in school, and I still have the picture that you sent me that you were crying? She was doing a meditation, and she went to this place, and she started crying because she wanted to come back there. She didn't want to be here. She wanted to come back there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I was doing a meditation. And this was like around the time that the movie Avatar. Oh no, it had already came out. I think the movie Avatar. Yeah. But I use Avatar as like a reference to kind of put like an image to what I'm like referring to. That it looked something similar. But it was like me flying, and and I had like I forgot what those animals were called in the movie that like they used to fly, but I had one similar to that. And I was flying, and it was just like I felt like so peaceful and just happy, and like I felt like a longing, like as if I missed it. And then I woke up like upset because I was like I like wanted to be there, and I like felt like I missed that life and that experience, and not like I didn't want to be, you know, here, like in the sense of like this, because this plane is more with like a lower vibration, it's more dense, you just feel like it's more heavy, which is like what, you know, my mom was talking about. So like and I woke up, I didn't wake up, when I like
came back,
whatever, yeah.
uh-huh.
I was crying, and I like took a picture of myself, and I sent it to her and to a couple of my friends that are also a part of this. So and yeah, so it's an example.
And so the thing is that it's not about leaving this world. It's about bringing that energy from those places here. It's bringing heaven to earth. That is the idea. So when you connect to those places, that's what you have to do. You have to bring that energy. So he understood, you know, Yeshua understood that it's not about leaving, it's about bringing that here. So Yeshua experienced many challenges, not because he was weak, but because he chose to walk through the very pain he came to help heal. What is our purpose? You know, when you said, oh my God, why this is happening to me? Bad things happen to me. Why do I have to go through this challenge? Why do I have to do that? Because you have to experience yourself all those things that you are going to help to heal on people. So you have to experience, you have to go through what he went. It's the same thing. He was just showing you what you do in your life. You know, a lot of people say, why do I have to go through that? Because that is what actually was going to help other people too. You grow through that yourself, but you help people heal because you really went through that. So you know, you are the pure example of that. So he did that. He wanted to experience all that. So Yeshua incarnated not to avoid the human path, but to walk it fully. He needed to experience fully what human was. So to embody the way home, not in theory, but in experience. But even though he stayed, because the mission is greater than the desire to leave. However, we are never truly misunderstood. Those who need to see will see. Those who need to remember will awaken. So when the loneliness comes, or the misunderstanding, or the resistance, do not fear it. It means you are walking the true path, and just like he did, you are awakening something ancient in the hearts of those who meet you.
So Marina, why was he sent to the cross? What was the reason for that?
Pontius Pilate. I can never pronounce his name. Okay, I'm sorry. Pontius Pilate. So Pilate did not, actually, this is what happened. Pilate did not find fault in Yeshua, really. In fact, he didn't even want to be part of this story. He knew that Yeshua had not committed any crime deserving of death. But he was caught in this web of fear and political games upon in the struggle of control, you know, the political stuff, more or less. And Pilate's role wasn't that of an impartial judge, but one of who feared actually people. He felt the uproar that could follow if he stood against the will of people, because the Jewish people wanted Yeshua to be punished. That was happening. So Pilate feared that what was going to happen if he did not do what these Jewish people wanted, you know, that big community. So he feared that. So his position was more like a precarious, you know. The true tension was between two forces: the spiritual authority of the religious leaders, like Jesus people, Jewish people, and the emerging truth of the light that Yeshua brought. Yeshua was not just threading their traditions. He was pointing people to something beyond those structures. He was offering freedom. This is what happens with religion. He was offering freedom, a direct connection with the divine, and a deeper understanding of the laws that govern the soul. So this terrified those who held power, because it meant the very foundation of their control over the people will fall apart. So of course they were threatened by Yeshua, but once again, it's because they didn't understand. They really didn't understand. The religious leaders of that time, while they held the spiritual titles, right, they were themselves trapped in a cycle of fear and hierarchy. And Yeshua could not be here. They had a hierarchy that they have to follow. They have those rules, no, nobody could come and just shake their ground like that. No, who was Yeshua to do that? No, so they could not imagine a world where divine truth was available to all, not just a select few. So, no. They are the ones, with the privilege. No, not everyone. You cannot connect to God like that. We can. They cannot. So that was the game that was happening. They needed to maintain control over the people's access to God. And Yeshua was offering something far more direct, more personal. He was offering freedom from the chains of human-made doctrine. They fear what he represented because it threatened not only their positions of power, but the very idea of what holiness and God's will meant. So he was exposing the truth, and they didn't like it. Yeshua did not come to reinforce their laws. He came to transcend them. He came to show that the true path was not found in rituals or sacrifices, but in love, in connection with the divine in every moment, in every being. So yes, Pilate was part of the scene, but it was the fear of losing control, the fear of not being able to contain the truth that drove the decisions of the religious leaders. They had been blinded by power and were willing to sacrifice anyone who threatened that. So in the end, his death in their eyes was a way to silence the threat. But as it always is with truth, silencing it was impossible. The truth can never be fully buried. The truth always finds its way out. Light doesn't last.
Yeah.
So the truth always comes out.
Yeah.
And even now, it continues to awaken.
I was just going to say that it's still, it sounds exactly what's happening right now. I mean, it's so I was telling you this yesterday that I was just doing my morning stuff, and this light bulb went off of like, oh my God, like now, like Yeshua is like, at home now and up there. And now we're the ones that are still being on the cross. We're the ones that are being crucified still. It's like, it was so interesting to see that. And it's like, there's everything you're saying, it's like you're talking about now. Like we haven't
evolved. Okay. We're still there. We haven't evolved. So, yeah.
No, go. Yeah. I mean,
no. I wanted to talk about the crucifixion, and I will.
Okay.
I will go there. Let's see. So, because the crucifixion was never about the sacrifice. It was a transformation. It was a deep change, a shift that affected everything in the world, because it did affect it. It doesn't matter what religion, everybody knows about that crucifixion from him. He experienced in that. So there was a complex, that moment, yeah, it was, this is how I see it. There was a complex web of light around the earth, dense and distorted, before the crucifixion. When he allowed himself to go through that experience, the energy of his body emerged with the web, sending a pulse of divine light through that grid. It was not about his death. The crucifixion was not about his death. It was about what happening through that moment. At that At the point of this transition, when his physical form could no longer contain the intensity of the frequency he was anchoring, there was an energetic explosion, a release that tore through that matrix that had been binding actually humanity. He was anchoring a vibration of pure divine love into the densest layers of this reality. The crucifixion was the culminating moment where that frequency shattered the false greed that kept humanity asleep. The pain, it wasn't necessary for him, but humanity needed it to understand the magnitude of the shift. They could not perceive energetic liberation, but they could see suffering. Right? He was mirroring people, so he was trying to talk their own language. So they couldn't see that energetic thing, right? So they were able to see suffering very well, right? So they could comprehend loss. So he allowed them to witness what they could grasp. Yeah, he was allowing them to witness what they could grasp, while the truth transformation was happening in ways they couldn't yet see or perceive it. So he was working on their souls, even if they were not seeing. People were not seeing it, but it was something was happening deep inside. So this act implanted codes of awakening into the collective consciousness. This went to the collective consciousness. That was the main purpose of such a horrifying act, because that's what it was, right? So the crucifixion was not the price to be paid. It was the vehicle that transmitted a new frequency into the air. The illusion of separation had to be pierced from within the system, and that's what he did. It was not about redemption. Yeshua was not paying for anyone's sin. That idea, that distortion was born from minds that still trapped in the old stories, in the old beliefs, the beliefs of punishment and sacrifice. How many religions are still on that? Yeah. Oh, if you don't sacrifice yourself, God will welcome you in heaven. Mm-hmm. But what he did was far greater. He chose to descend fully into the illusion of separation, to walk in the densest vibration, to experience the pain and limitation that humans carried, so he could transmute them from within. When he allowed them to take that body and end its life, he was demonstrating that even death could not hold him, that love transcends all. Then, the moment after his physical death, there was an immense burst of light expanding outward. That was the moment. The crucifixion was not the end. It was the point where the all construct began to collapse. And the resurrection was the proof that life is eternal, that the illusion of death could no longer bind the souls, of this world. He was showing them so many things that they could still, only few people were able to really see it. Yeshua didn't come to suffer. He came to break the chains. He came to break the chains. The crucifixion was the catalyst that, like I said before, like shatter the control grid placed upon this earth. But it was the resurrection that anchored the new frequency, the remembrance that we are all infinite. They misunderstood because they only saw with their eyes. And listen to this, Bella. They didn't understand because they saw with their eyes. But now they can finally see beyond illusion if they choose to. They can see from their soul's eyes.
Wow.
You know what happens to you specifically about your eyes?
Yeah.
So that I told you are going to start seeing, but not with your physical eyes. And that's, I don't know if you wanna say a little bit about it, because that also, I think that would be great for people to see that it's not about about something physical there is so deep inside, and then everything is how do you say, correlated.
Correlated.
Yeah, the soul with the physical, but the soul has to see first, so you see it, with your eyes, and you don't want to, you block yourself. Do you want to explain anything about that?
Yeah,
or
sure. So these friggin' glasses drive me crazy. I want to get rid of these glasses so bad. But I'm going through learning growth around whatever this is about. But I've got these strange things happening to my eyes that recently have just started happening, and I really do believe it's obviously because Marina is just teaching me so much, but a lot of it has to do with just that energy of running that white light through me and being at a higher frequency, and my soul personally being at that place of being ready to expand and to come more into myself. And so what's been happening for me has been like, Marina, what is happening to me? I've been calling it laser light because it's exactly what it feels like, that there is this piercing in my eyes that is absolutely the strangest thing I've ever felt. And it feels like when if you're having laser work actually done on your eyes, that's sort of like burning, kind of prickling, kind of piercing. It literally feels like a laser. But the thing that's so weird about this, it's not going this way, it's going this way. But it's like it's not even in the middle of my head, it's in the back of my head, and it's piercing through, and it doesn't hurt, but it is my own personal message that is coming through for me, that it's all about the truth, that I'm resonating with the truth, that what feels like just what Yeshua is saying, it's like I could just feel it. I could feel, I could resonate so much with something. Like I'll just be watching something and I'll just get this feeling in my eyes. And so this is very new. This is very new.
What is happening with you is that you are lifting that veil. You are lifting that veil so you can see better, and you are feeling it physically because that's the way that you can understand what's happening.
Yeah.
But you're lifting that veil, and you are allowing yourself to be yourself. You see the truth about yourself. Everything has to do with seeing.
Yeah.
Everything has to do with seeing the truth, to letting yourself be yourself and value yourself. You now see how a great person you are. You see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can see it. So every time you see the truth of anything, you feel that in your eyes. So this is a good example. You are getting it yourself this way with your eyes because that's how your soul is showing you, because it knows that that's the way that you are able to understand the science, what is happening. You get a realization. Other people will get it in other ways, right? But it's about seeing the truth, aligning with yourself, being yourself. That's how you and you lift that veil. We are blinded. A lot of people are blinded right now. So do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I know, because I'm living it right now. It's like, that's a great way of saying it. It feels like the veil is just being lifted.
That's what it is. And you experience it that way because that's how you can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what people were not, like I said before, people, they misunderstood because they were not ready. They were not ready, and they couldn't, because they were only seeing with the physical eyes. They could not, because they were in such lower energy that they can really see from a higher perspective.
Yeah.
But now, so they can finally see beyond illusion if they want to, if they choose to. You have to want to do that.
Yeah.
So the crucifixion was not the sacrifice they think it was. It was the moment when divine love pierced through the illusion, and that love is what continues to awaken them now. So is the veil is lifting. So when we talk about Easter,
Let me, I've got something in my head and it's a little fuzzy, but I'm just going to try to go with it. So I just want to back up here because you were saying about how it's like I'm confused about the collective consciousness, like with the crucifixion of him, right? That I understand his message, but didn't it kind of backfire because the collective consciousness on a whole, because of that time period, they all went into pain and suffering and that sort of a lower vibration stuff. So I'm having a hard time understanding why you're saying Yeshua, it helped. So it almost felt like it backfired because everybody was feeling a lower vibration. Is that making sense?
Yeah, but the what happened with the collective consciousness is that impact was global. He had a global impact on people, and they still, decided to see it like they don't, like I was talking before, they didn't want responsibility. They wanted responsibility of their own actions. They wanted a savior. That's, you know what, this is about Easter.
Okay.
It brings me again to Easter.
Okay.
So let me explain what Easter actually is right now, and what it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So what do they do now for Easter? They dress up really nice with the red clothes. They go to church, right? To church, with their faces showing respect, but also sadness. They come to mourn, to remember death. So this is, I'm going to explain here what I think I'm going to give you the answer of that question, explaining this.
Okay.
Because right now, people, how they celebrate his death, right? So they go to church to mourn. So that's a lower energy right there, right? Yeah. So they believe they are honoring Yeshua by focusing on his suffering, by carrying the weight of guilt and sin. All that is the lower energy, right? Yeah. That you were referring to. Yes. And that's what they do. They go, they focus only on that, on the suffering and the guilt and the sin, and he did that to save us from our sins. Okay, so you see them praying with heavy hearts, right? Seeking forgiveness, believing that his death was a sacrifice required to cleanse them of their sins. They haven't taught that he was sent to die for their transgressions, that his blood was the price for their salvation. So they come together with this heavy feeling of guilt and not feeling good, good enough. They are not feeling good enough. Generations thinking they are born with something wrong, needing a savior to redeem them. Yeah. Right? That's the belief that we have accumulated through life. So this is the negative thing that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. The backfire thing that you're talking about. That's what they do now with Easter. Yeah. So they gather to celebrate death, believing that by doing so, they honor his life. They mourn what they think was lost, not realizing that nothing was ever lost. So all those symbols, the crosses, the crucifixes, and images of suffering, all those symbols are reinforcing the story of pain and sacrifice. So we are the one in the cross. We are reminding ourselves that we are in the cross. We are suffering constantly. Yeah. Looking at that, we're seeing at that, and we just keep remembering that we are that. We are the pain, and we have to go through sacrifice. We don't get out of that. We don't go down of that cross. We stay there. Right? So they focus on the cross, but they forget what came after. They dwell in sorrow. not realizing that his resurrection was not a singular event. It was a reflection of what is possible for all. I need to say this again. In other words, Easter is not a celebration of his death, and it never was. But that is what their world was conditioned to believe. The crucifixion was not about sacrifice or making up for something wrong. It was not about paying for anyone's sins. That idea was born from fear, from minds that could only understand God through punishment and suffering. But he did not come to reinforce that. He came to show them the truth, that love is the most powerful force in existence, and it cannot be destroyed. The crucifixion was a moment where divine love met the densest vibration of fear and transmuted from within. It was the breaking point where the illusion of separation began to unravel. And the resurrection, that was the proof. The moment where the light anchored back into the earth, showing that life is eternal, that there is no death, only transformation. But the world misunderstood. So they focused on the suffering, because suffering was what they knew. They couldn't yet see the victory of love beyond the pain. Easter, as they know it, is a distortion. It has become a ritual. Yeah, it has become a ritual that keeps them locked in the frequency of sacrifice, guilt, and I cannot say this word. Martyr. Yes.
Martyr. Yeah.
So that's the lower energy.
Yeah.
So because they misunderstood. When you celebrate his death, you keep the energy of suffering alive. You are feeding that energy. You anchor the frequency of sacrifice and separation into the collective consciousness. But it doesn't have to be this way anymore. People have to shift their focus. Easter should not be a remembrance of pain. It should be a celebration of awakening, a remembrance that love conquered the illusion of death, that what he came to show them was not sacrifice, but liberation, freedom. Honor the resurrection, not as an external event, but as a reflection of your own awakening. Celebrate the rebirth of your own consciousness, that awakening. And people should watch again those videos that we put there about remembering and awakening so they can understand better. But you are not here to worship his suffering. You are here to awaken to your own divinity. Celebrate the truth that lives within you. Celebrate the remembrance that you are infinite. His mission was never about death. It was about life. And that is what they should celebrate now. They don't need to reject Easter. That's not what I'm saying here. But they need to reclaim it. The essence of Easter was never meant to be about death. The energy of resurrection was always about rebirth, renewal, and awakening. People should gather not in mourning or guilt, but in celebration, celebrating in the triumph of life or illusion, something like that. It's like you don't need to abandon Easter. Again, that's not what I'm saying. You can choose to honor it in a way that aligns with the truth. Let it become a day where you celebrate the awakening of divine consciousness, but within yourself. Let it be a reminder that you too are here to transcend the illusion of separation and step into the fullness of your light. People can gather not to grieve or worship pain, because that's what they're doing. They are worshiping pain, but they should gather to rejoice in the remembrance that love cannot be destroyed, to celebrate the resurrection of their own souls, the awakening happening within them now. Families and communities can come together not to dwell on suffering, but to reflect on their own inner transformation. They can honor this day as a reflection of their own rebirth, a moment to acknowledge how far they have come on their journey and to step more fully into the light of who they are becoming. They have to shift their focus on something better. They can create new rituals. Yeah, why not? Whatever they make them feel all this truth. They can use like Bashar says, permission slips. Okay, if they want to use a ritual for that, okay, create a new one. Okay, people can gather and speak words of gratitude for their growth, to recognize the divine within one another, to see this as a time where the old pulls away and the new emerges. That is the true meaning of resurrection. Easter can be a celebration of life, not death. A moment to honor the awakening of the Christ consciousness that lives within all of them and all people. They can celebrate, but celebrate with truth in their hearts. Honor what was always meant to be, remembrance of life, love, and eternal awakening. That's what it should be. Something positive.
Yeah. It's so funny when you were saying about like going, like that's exactly what I saw. It's about, our history is beautiful. We have it. It's there's a lot of stuff in there that we need, and then there's a lot of stuff that we need to like let go of. But like, let's move forward now. Let's like start anew and go more into like more of our true essence of who we are. I really love I love starting anew around all of this.
And actually we didn't talk about Duffy and
Yeah, no, really, that's a big deal. I mean, Duffy and Hackey. I thought they were going to be more in the beginning, but yeah.
I just started talking and I forgot how to. Yeah, the thing is that I was saying in the beginning, we were being tested a lot.
Yeah,
a lot,
to say the least.
Yeah. We have to experience it. We have to experience it. We can really talk about this, right? So what happened was that in the building that I live, I found a little dog, a baby dog, a duckling, and I tried to save him. And what happened was that a hawk was taking these ducklings from their moms. So he took a couple of them, okay, more than a couple. And this one fell where I was. And it didn't, the duckling didn't die. When I saw him, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? I don't want to leave him here. He was going to die, right? And since I can talk to any soul, including animal soul, doesn't make any difference. It's always a soul, right? So I did my best, and with Pilar helping me on the other side, how to make him feel comfortable, because I wanted to take him to one of those rescue center thing, but they were already closed, so I had to keep him overnight. And the first thing in the morning, I was going to take him, but I was so scared that he was going to die during the night. So I tried to do everything I could to keep him comfortable, but he was, and I started talking to him, like the soul to soul. That's what I'm saying. And he was, and I was texting Pilar, he's very stubborn. I just don't get it, because he didn't want my help. He didn't want my help. And he was so like, no, just let me be. I will figure it out myself. He was like that. And I was so confused. And then in the whole night, he was crying the whole night. And I got up like 100 times to check on him. And then very early in the morning, he told me, well, I'm saying he, right? Well, his soul. I don't know if it was a female or male, but you know what I mean. He said, you cannot interfere on my path. You have to let me experience what I came to experience. You cannot interfere on that. And I was like, what is he trying to say? I was thinking, oh my God, I think I know what he's trying to say. And I didn't like it, obviously. He said, just let me be, let me experience what I came to experience. You don't have to do anything, just let me be. And then it was around 4:45 in the morning, the last time I heard him. And I thought, okay, he fell asleep. But no, he never woke up. So I didn't even have a chance to take him to the rescue center thing. And it really hurt. But this really taught us that we cannot, when souls have already set a path, there is nothing you can do. Nothing you can do. I mean, someone external. Nothing that someone else can do to change that. We have our own path. That's where we decided to live, and that's where we want to experience, and that's what it is. No one else have any business on it. And that comes to Yeshua. When Yeshua was healing certain people, and he couldn't heal all the people, and he was like bringing back to life to people that died, and he couldn't do that to all of them, but there was a reason for that. He could see that their souls already chose what they wanted to do, so he couldn't bring them back when they already decided that they wanted to go through all that and go back home. He couldn't. It wasn't on him. So, but people couldn't understand that. People could not understand, and we have to really understand that why people act the way they act, because they have to, obviously they are going through a lot of processes, right? But they have to go through that. They decided to go through that for their own growth, to understand, the purpose of whatever they decided to experience, right? So they have to go. So you cannot force that. You cannot force anything on other people. And then one of the guys that were here in the building, he said, well, the hawk is always coming here, and one of the balconies they eat, because there were two, and he was seeing one this lately, and he said, well, this one is coming to eat all the ducklings, and usually all the birds too. There are other birds and other little animals, and he has to clean up all that stuff. So the next day he sent me, it was actually a video. I took a screenshot of it. It was a video of the hawk just standing there. And I felt so much love seeing this hawk. It was, and you too, Pilar, right? A lot of compassion, because we were judging, right? We were judging. It comes to the judge again. We were judging the hawk, oh, mean hawk, killing. But he has to survive too. He has to eat. Maybe he has chicks, that he has to feed. Those chicks depend on him. Like we don't know. Who are we to judge? And I felt so much love for this. So Pilar named the little duck Duffy, and then the hawk Haki came for that. So that was a good experience that we went through. That we cannot really. So two things: we cannot really change people's path. We have no business doing that. It's them. It's everything them, on them, their own choice. And the other thing is that we cannot judge, because we don't know. We don't know what they're going through either. We don't know what they have to, like the hawk in this case. We cannot judge that, because I was even judging Duffy. I was saying, oh, he's stubborn. He doesn't want to learn. What, he doesn't want this, and now he always want me to save him. Oh, and he said, it's not about you. Why are you making my life about you? When he said that, it was like, oh, that was my ego, right? Like he was like, but I wasn't thinking like my ego. I didn't want him to die. But who I am, who am I to not let him do what he wants to do? I'm no one. He owns his own life. He owns his soul. So who am I? Nobody. So yeah, and that has to do, a lot with Yeshua. That's what he was misunderstood. And yeah, that was the story with Duffy and Haki, and we love them.
Oh, we love them. I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, as a matter of fact, Marina just happened to be talking to me at the time, and she was like, Pilar, there's a little chickie, and we just went on this long trail of just like, it was just so intense. And yeah, we were devastated. And then I think we both were going through the same emotions at the same time. And just like, but Marina sent me a picture of Haki, and God, Haki was so spectacularly beautiful. And my heart just opened up to Haki. I was like, well, yeah, you gotta live too. Like, I mean, just having, the eyes, just visual for me, like just being able to just see, the different levels. And who would have thought we would have gotten so much information, and our souls grew so much from this experience of these two beings that wanted to teach us. And I do really think Yeshua was definitely involved in that, for sure.
Yeah. And every person goes through that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be an animal, but with people. But we have to honor people as souls, their souls' decision, and let them go, especially when it comes to what we call death. Death is just the end of one experience, so you can go to the next one, so it's not really death in the way that it doesn't exist. We exist, and we will always exist. We just change forms. That's the only thing that we do. And we can really, and lifting this veil, you can, once you do that, you can really start making that connection back to all of them, to all of those people that left, your loved ones that the transition over. You can really start having that connection with them, and you will see that they are always there, that there's not really a separation. So that's another thing that that I was talking about, the crucifixion, and what that he wanted to show, that there is just an illusion.
Yeah. So I actually had a thought. This happens to Marina and I a lot. We're like on the same page, because I wanted to ask a little bit about that, about with Mary Magdalene, like what was going on with her after he was gone? I mean, can you talk a little bit about her and her experience with this, how she did?
She felt a lot of pain, and she was trying to, what she said is that, it was the same thing with him, actually. She said that she didn't know everything. The same thing with Yeshua. Yeshua, when he incarnated, he didn't know he was going to be crucified. He didn't know that. And there is a reason for that. So in Mary Magdalene didn't know that she had to witness that kind of thing, that kind of heaviness. She didn't know, because she said, if we knew, it was going to change our path. Obviously, if you know that crossing the street is going to kill you right now, somebody told you cross the street and you were going to die in the worst way ever, are you going to cross the street? No. Even though if you think, God is telling you, you will doubt it. You will try to change that. You will do a lot of things if you knew in advance. But Yeshua, he knew towards the end, but he had a big preparation during 32 years of his life walking on earth. So he was already prepared when he had to know about the crucifixion. He was already prepared, and he was preparing her. And they knew, imagine Mary, Mother Mary.
Yeah.
That was even worse than Mary Magdalene, her experience. But they knew that they have to just let it go. They knew about the biggest purpose. They didn't want to be anchored down to that negative thing about pain and about suffering. They saw beyond that. So that's what helped them. But they did experience pain. They did experience it. It was hard, and they needed to experience it because they were going through the path of a human. We're going through the path of a person, so they have to experience that kind of stuff, also to mirror people. So they were always mirroring, so people could reflect what people could understand. They have to show them in ways that people could understand, and again, talk in their language. So if suffering was the way that they was going to shake them up, okay, that's what is going to happen, is you are going to see suffering, because that's the only way. People like drama, with Judas, they have to see that, because they were not getting it. So they needed to be shaken up, and that was That was a big explosion that happened through the global consciousness. The whole world. It went through the whole world. It was something so big, but it has to happen because that's the only way that people can understand. And hopefully they don't see it that way anymore. You don't have to go through pain. You don't have to go to sacrifice. You don't. People think that that's the only way that they will get to heaven and God is going to welcome them. But it's not. Life is not about that. It's not about pain. It's not about sacrifice. It's not. So hope people can understand. If they cannot, it's okay. It's totally okay. Whoever resonates with this is good, and if you didn't resonate with it, it's also good. So, but hopefully this explanation can help you guys a little bit to understand his life better and his true purpose.
Yeah. Wow. I learned a lot. But yeah, it's just like I was saying in the beginning. I mean, Qua is pretty intense on being able to activate certain memories and to resonate and frequency. And so yeah, just be you and take what you want from this, and just leave what you don't resonate with. But I'm going to take it all myself because I think I really resonate with all of it, and it just feels really right in my heart. So
before we end the video, once again, I want to remind you guys that Yeshua did not come to be worshipped. He came to remind you guys that what he embodied, the Christ consciousness, lives within you. Easter is not meant to mark the suffering and the pain. It's meant to mark the awakening of that truth within every soul.
yeah.
Celebrate life.
And bring in the light.
Through the light, people.
Nice.
Thank you for joining us today. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.